The spring migration, when I first heard of it, was when I was living with Nomads back in 2012. I'd heard it was an incredibly challenging expedition, and that excited me. Part of Mongolia where Kazakhs live is called befriended, and the Kazakh people have sort of been chased around by Russians, by the Chinese, by the Germans even, around that sort of part of the Altai Mountains in Kazakhstan for the last 150 years. Kazakh nomads are pastoral nomads. They don't just roam plains and steppe randomly. They actually have set sort of parts of Western Mongolia they go between, and they go as often as they need to. If they don't need to, they don't go. But they need to go when the grass runs out. Animals, which are essentially their livelihoods, depend on grass to eat, and when that runs out, they need to move to new grazing grounds. The spring migration is a natural part of life. People need to move their animals from their winter pastures where there is no more grass left to their summer pastures where there is plenty of grass left. I've stayed in touch with my nomadic friends in Western Mongolia for the last 6 or 7 years. In fact, they've become very close and dear friends of mine, and I go back to see them as often as I can. They know that I want to do this expedition. So I got a call from one of them, Aggie, who said he had relatives who were about to embark on a spring migration, and would I be interested in joining it? And I immediately said yes. It was a bit different, when I went the first time to the Gobi, it was kind of a much more physical challenge. This one, there was not really much I could do by way of physically preparing. We were going to be on horseback. It would mainly be about a mental challenge to do more with the weather, herding animals, living with a Kazakh family. The culture shock value is a bit higher. It wasn't going to be like I needed to train 9 to 5, for 3 months in advance. I spent 7 days living with Aouz and his family. So Aouz is a Kazakh nomad. He's a horse lord. He's a very, very well-known horse trainer in befriended. In fact, I believe he's the best horse trainer in befriended. Spent 7 days living as a nomad, helping out where I could. It's quite mundane, everything from herding animals, bringing them out to sort of the grasslands, to collecting water, to picking up animal defecation. Sort of sunrise, you start working, sunset, you go to sleep. We're waiting for those winds to subside, we're waiting for the temperature to increase, and for the snow to subside in the mountains. So the expedition was delayed. We were supposed to set out on April 1st, and we ended up going on the 2nd. And the first challenge was to hit this mountain pass. So we had a 1,000-meter ascent. Timed it perfectly. He got the weather right. We had no wind and it was warm, relatively. But trying to convince horses, cows, goats, sheep, yaks to climb what feels like a sheer cliff face through snow up a mountain is like a game of chess against hundreds of opponents. Huge relief when we finally got to the top of that mountain. We were greeted with this stunning view, and we could see the Altai Mountains spread before us. From that point onwards, we would follow Hov River through its valley. The valley is very well known for its wind. It's a very windy valley, and so it became very difficult. We were going into a headwind. It was very, very cold, and we had about 28 kilometers with animals going, anywhere from 2 to 4 kilometers an hour. Ours' animals at the end of winter are the skinniest and weakest they'll be. A lot of the time they'll just collapse, they'll fall down, they won't be able to stand up. Someone has to go back, put the animal on the horse until it warms up and recovers. In one case we actually had to load a sheep onto a camel because it just wasn't moving anymore. The next day was supposed to be the toughest day. Waist deep snow, big winds, potential snowing, very cold temperatures. And the morning was very, very difficult, but the afternoon was beautiful, sunny. And we made it at around 4 or 5 p.m. to Ows's spring home. His home is nestled in the corner of this huge valley. There's no wind, there's a lot of snow, but it felt warm. I could go out in a jumper rather than 3 or 4 jackets. My face wasn't constantly burning from the cold. And then that night we celebrated. We drank a couple bottles of vodka, some beer. We had a big plate of meat to eat, and it really felt amazing. This was an expedition with a real purpose. We had safely transported over 300 animals from one side of Bayanolgi to the other. We'd gone around 80 kilometers, and no animals had died, no animals were sick. His family was safe, all of us were okay. And when it was over, yeah, it was I was very mixed feelings. On one hand, I had built these friendships and relationships with these people so deeply, going through this experience with them, that I was going to miss when I left. And on the other hand, we had completed what was probably one of the toughest challenges of my life.